H. moved into her modest two-bedroom house on the outskirts of Pittsburgh in the spring of 2001. She was 28, single, and had recently taken a new job at a publishing firm downtown. The house was older, built in the 1950s, with creaky floorboards, pale yellow siding, and ivy climbing up the back brick chimney. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. She had always wanted to live alone. The quiet, the independence, the freedom to decorate and exist on her own terms. These were things she dreamed of through years of cramped apartments and inconsiderate roommates. But the house was too quiet. From the very first night, Tracy sensed something was off. Not anything obvious. No flickering lights, no objects moving on their own. It was subtler than that. When she lay in bed at night, she sometimes heard faint sounds, like the shifting of weight above her, or soft creaks that didn't seem tied to the wind or old wood settling. The attic, she assumed. Every old house made noise. At least that's what she told herself. 2 weeks in, Tracy began to notice strange little things. Nothing major, just small, nagging inconsistencies that were easy to rationalize at first. She'd leave a light on in the hallway, return from work, and it would be off. A cup she thought she left in the sink would be on the drying rack. Her cat, Milo, would stare at the ceiling sometimes and hiss for no reason. She began to write it all off as stress from work or her own forgetfulness. But then the food started disappearing. It began with snacks, packets of chips, a granola bar, a can of soda. Then it became full items. Half a loaf of bread, slices of deli meat, a leftover Chinese takeout box she was sure she'd saved for lunch. One night she opened the fridge and realized the orange juice carton was nearly empty. She'd bought it that day. That was when she stopped chalking it up to stress. She changed the locks, even though there was no sign of forced entry. She asked neighbors if they had seen anything strange. None had. She considered getting cameras, but thought it was overkill. Maybe she really was just misplacing things. Maybe Milo had learned how to open the fridge. Still, the unease grew. One night around 2:30 a.m., she was startled awake by a soft thud above her head. She sat up, heart pounding. The attic. She stared at the ceiling, her breath held. Silence. Then, a slow scrape, like something being dragged. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. Her attic entrance was a pull-down ladder in the hallway. She stared at it for several minutes, frozen. Finally, she decided to check it in the morning. But the morning brought no courage. She went to work early and avoided the thought. That night, she pushed a chair under the attic hatch and climbed up. She didn't go in, just shined the flashlight up. Nothing. Dust, insulation, beams. No sign of anything or anyone. She shut the hatch and pushed the uneasy thoughts away. 2 nights later, the sounds returned. Shuffling, sometimes soft thuds. Milo wouldn't go near the hallway anymore. Then, the worst moment yet. Tracy came home from work and unlocked the door, only to feel something. A cold draft, a wrongness. Milo wasn't at the door to greet her, like he always was. "Milo," she called. She walked through the living room, her steps echoing louder than usual. The house felt too still. As she entered the kitchen, she stopped. The back door was unlocked. She never left it unlocked. A noise came from above her. Not a creak, a definite step. She didn't move. Her skin went cold. The step was followed by another and another. Someone was walking across the attic floor. Tracy backed up slowly, hands shaking as she grabbed her phone and called 911. "There's someone in my attic," she whispered. The dispatcher told her to go outside and wait. Officers were dispatched within minutes. 2 squad cars arrived. The officers entered with guns drawn. Tracy stood outside in her pajamas, arms wrapped around herself, stomach churning. It took 10 minutes. Then an officer came out. "Ma'am, there's something up there you need to see." She followed hesitantly, accompanied by the second officer. They pulled down the ladder. The attic was dim, lit by one flickering bulb. There, in the corner behind an old dresser left by the previous owner, was a nest. A nest. There was no better word for it. A thin, filthy mattress. Several soda bottles, some filled with urine. Fast food wrappers, empty water bottles, a sleeping bag, a flashlight, even a small battered radio. And worse than anything, was a pile of items clearly belonging to her. Receipts, pieces of junk mail, a half-used bottle of her shampoo, an old bra, and a small notebook. Inside the notebook were entries, notes about her. 4:15 p.m. She leaves for work, made no noise. 2:20 m. She got up to pee, waited. 6:05 p.m. She made pasta again. She watches that show every night. She's predictable. The last entry was just 2 days old. Tracy nearly vomited. She ran down the ladder and didn't sleep a second that night. The police scoured the attic and the house but found no one. The back door had no signs of forced entry. They believed he had been coming and going when she left for work and sneaking down at night while she slept. He had been living there for at least 3 weeks. No fingerprints, no DNA match. The man was never caught. Tracy moved out that weekend and never returned. She stayed with friends, then found a new apartment in the city with security cameras and a doorbell cam. She kept lights on all night, slept with a bat beside her bed, adopted a second cat. Years later, she gave an interview for a true crime podcast, her voice still shaky. "I think about it all the time," she said. "He watched me sleep. He was so close I could have touched him. I'll never feel safe in a house alone again." To this day, she never listens to the attic when she hears a noise. She just leaves. Story 2. In the fall of 2012, Derek M., a 22-year-old college senior, moved into a low-rent apartment near his university in Providence, Rhode Island. He had always been practical, more concerned about budget than appearances, and the price of this 2-bedroom unit was impossible to ignore. $400 a month, utilities included. It was an old building, nestled between the historic parts of town and more industrial outskirts. Faded green shingles, cracked pavement in the back alley, and a rust-stained mailbox with no name. The landlord, an older man with nicotine-stained fingers and watery eyes, barely said a word during the lease signing. He just handed over the keys, shrugged, and muttered, "Basement fuse box trips sometimes. Happens. And don't lose the closet key." Closet key? Derek moved in the following day with only a bed, a desk, and a few boxes of books and kitchen supplies. He didn't need much. The first bedroom he made his own. The second he planned to use as a study. The apartment was always cold. It wasn't just the New England autumn creeping in. It was something else. A deep, uncomfortable chill that clung to the hallway and lingered in the corners of the study room. At first, he assumed the draft was from poor insulation. The windows were ancient, and the walls were thin enough to hear muffled voices from neighbors. By the third week, Derek began noticing little things, details that gnawed at the edge of his thoughts. Every time he walked into the study, the closet door was slightly ajar. He'd close it tightly, only to find it cracked open the next time. He chalked it up to bad hinges or perhaps his own forgetfulness. But the unease only grew. At night, while working late on his laptop, he sometimes heard soft sounds coming from that room. Nothing loud, just a shifting sound, like something brushing against fabric. Sometimes a faint tap. He assumed it was rodents or maybe just the building settling. But there was something about the timing. The noises would begin only after midnight, and always when he was alone. Then came the worst part, the dreams. Derek began waking in the early morning hours, drenched in sweat, convinced someone had been in his room. The dreams were vivid. In one, he woke up to find someone standing at the foot of his bed. A man, thin and pale, with wide eyes and no expression. In another, he heard breathing right beside his ear. The terror felt real, so real that he would jolt awake gasping. He set up his phone to record video while he slept. Nothing, just tossing and turning. But then something strange happened. He misplaced his phone one day and decided to check the study. He opened the closet, still cracked open as always, and moved aside some old coats left by the previous tenant. That's when he felt the cold air hit his face. A draft. He pushed aside the coats again, running his hand along the back wall of the closet. To his surprise, his fingers touched something different. Drywall slightly bowed in and not nailed down like the rest. His heart began to race. He knocked, hollow. Carefully, he pried at the edge, and the panel shifted. It wasn't a wall, it was a cover. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, maybe 4 feet deep and barely shoulder wide. He had to crouch and turn sideways to fit inside. The air smelled musty and old. The only light came from the hallway behind him. As he crawled forward, his hands touched something soft. A blanket. He turned and looked. There was a small mattress shoved against the far side of the crawl space. It was filthy, yellowed and torn. Beside it was a pile of empty water bottles, some stained with mold, in a plastic bag filled with fast food wrappers. And that's when he saw them. Polaroids. Dozens of them taped to the crawl space wall. All pictures of him. Some taken while he sat on the couch. Others from behind, showing him cooking in the kitchen. One, taken in the dark, showed him sleeping. Mouth slightly open, blanket halfway off his chest. He stumbled out of the space in blind panic, nearly knocking over a lamp. He ran out of the apartment and stood in the street for 10 minutes, hyperventilating. Eventually, he called the police. When they arrived, they searched the apartment and the crawl space. They found the same photos, mattress, and garbage. No one was inside, but someone had clearly been living in that hidden room. Someone who had been watching Derek through tiny holes or cracks, entering the apartment when Derek was gone, and sneaking into the main rooms to take photos. There was no forced entry, nothing stolen, no prints. The landlord, when questioned, claimed ignorance. "This place has a weird layout," he said. "Old building, lots of quirks." But Derek noticed something else. The key to the closet, which he'd never used, was no longer on the ring the landlord had given him. It was missing, and the doorknob had been scratched around the lock, as if someone had used it many times. When he confronted the landlord again, the man shrugged. "People do strange things, especially around here. Don't ask questions you won't want the answers to." Derek moved out the next day. He left everything behind except his laptop, a duffel of clothes, and his textbooks. He didn't sleep for 2 days. For months afterward, he struggled to be alone in any room with a closed door. If he heard a creak in the floorboards, his heart would seize. He began seeing a therapist for anxiety and panic attacks. He never found out who had lived behind his wall or how long they'd been watching him. He never recovered the missing key. What haunted him most was one final photo, one the police took into evidence. It had been tucked into a torn corner of the mattress. It showed him sitting at his desk, reading, headphones on, the date scrawled on the back, October 12th. That was the night he woke up from a dream of breathing. He had felt someone's presence then, and it hadn't been his imagination. Story 3. Mia Delaney never thought much about baby monitors until the night she heard a stranger speaking to her daughter. She had lived in her small rental home in suburban Kansas for just over a year. It was a quiet area full of identical cul-de-sacs and freshly painted fences, the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. After her divorce, Mia worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. Her ex-husband Ethan had moved 2 states away and saw their daughter, Lily, only during the holidays. Lily was only 2 years old, full of life and energy, with curly black hair and a squeaky laugh that filled the house. Mia doted on her every waking moment. But when night came and Mia had to catch up on grading papers or freelance projects, she relied on her most trusted tool, a baby monitor. It was one of the newer models, a video and audio device with a smartphone app. The camera sat on a shelf in Lily's room, capturing her crib in black and white night vision. Mia could check it from her phone, speak through it, and even pan the camera remotely. It gave her peace of mind until it became a source of terror. It began one ordinary Thursday. Mia had just settled down with a glass of wine and her laptop, catching up on editing documents while Lily napped upstairs. Around 10:30 p.m., she glanced at the baby monitor app on her phone. The screen showed Lily asleep in her crib, curled up with her stuffed giraffe. Nothing unusual. She returned to her work. Then, barely 5 minutes later, something made her glance again. The screen had changed. Lily was sitting up in bed, That wasn't unusual. Toddlers were restless sleepers. But what made Mia's blood run cold was the expression on Lily's face. She was smiling, looking up and to the right, toward the corner of the room. And then Mia heard something over the audio feed. A man's voice. Calm, gentle, male. There. Don't cry. Daddy's here. Mia froze. The voice was low and deliberate, with an unnatural tone, almost like someone speaking to a pet. Lily giggled softly in response. Mia stood so fast, her wine glass shattered on the floor. She sprinted up the stairs, heart slamming in her chest, already dialing 911. The room was empty, except for Lily, sitting calmly in her crib. No man, no sound. She checked the closet. Nothing. Under the crib. Nothing. The windows were locked. She locked the door behind her and waited with Lily until the police arrived. They searched the house from attic to crawl space. No signs of forced entry. No footprints outside. No fingerprints. They told her, gently, that perhaps the monitor had picked up interference. Maybe a neighbor's monitor on the same frequency. But it's a Wi-Fi monitor, she argued. It's password protected. One officer raised an eyebrow. Well, then it could be hacked. Mia barely slept that night. The next day, exhausted but determined, she began researching. She found forums, hundreds of posts from other parents who had experienced similar things. Stories of strangers speaking to their children. Voices taunting, whispering, even issuing threats. All through hacked baby monitors. Most of them were connected to the internet. Few had any real security. Hackers from around the world could find IP addresses through search engines, crack default passwords, and gain complete access, including camera control. Mia was horrified. She changed all her passwords, disconnected the monitor from Wi-Fi. She even bought a new audio-only analog monitor to replace it. But the damage was already done. Lily began having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming in the night, crying that the man was in the wall or Daddy is watching from the ceiling. Mia tried everything. Night lights, soothing music, lavender mist. But nothing helped. One night she even found Lily trying to climb out of her crib, mumbling, "He told me to come with him." Mia felt helpless. Then one night, something new happened. A week after the incident, Mia was sitting in the living room, the audio monitor clipped to her shirt. It had been quiet for an hour. She was watching TV, trying to relax, when the monitor clicked on. Soft static. Then the faint sound of footsteps. She turned the volume up. The sound grew louder, distinct, heavy footsteps on creaky floorboards. But not in Lily's room. These were from her room. The footsteps stopped. Then another voice, this time deeper. "She's still awake." Mia leapt from the couch, heart nearly stopping. This time, she didn't call the police. She ran straight to her room and flipped the light on. Empty. Nothing. Every window was locked, the closet untouched. Her bedroom door hadn't moved. But the monitor, still clutched in her hand, buzzed again. A soft chuckle filtered through, like someone laughing through a fan. She ripped the batteries out. The next day, she installed new locks, deadbolts, and security cameras. She covered every inch of the house. When she reviewed the first night's footage, nothing showed. No one entered or exited. But that same night, her Wi-Fi router logs showed unknown devices connecting briefly around 10 p.m. Twice. She contacted her internet provider. They told her someone could be war driving, a form of drive-by hacking where people scan neighborhoods for weak Wi-Fi. They might never even leave their car. The thought made Mia sick. After 2 more sleepless weeks, things seemed to calm down. The new analog monitor had no issues. The cameras showed nothing out of place. But one Sunday, while preparing lunch, Mia heard Lily laughing upstairs. That was normal. What wasn't normal was that Lily was laughing at someone. Mia muted the stove and walked to the foot of the stairs. She heard it, just barely. A male voice, talking low and sing-song. "Come on, Lily. Say the word. Say my name." Mia sprinted up the stairs, heart punching her ribs. She burst into the room. Lily sat in the middle of the floor, giggling and staring directly at the air vent. The vent cover had been removed. Mia screamed. She grabbed her daughter and ran next door to her neighbor, who was already on the phone with the police after hearing the scream. This time, the police arrived with a search warrant. They inspected the entire house. Finally, an officer pried open the air duct, wide enough for someone thin to crawl through, and found what they thought impossible: a small camera lens. Not a store-bought one. A DIY camera rigged with wires, patched into the ductwork, and routed through the wall. It had been placed in such a way that it could see both Lily's crib and Mia's bed. Behind the wall, they found signs of tampering. Holes drilled, panels shifted, and a small square of insulation peeled back. Someone had broken in months ago, set up the rig, and used the compromised baby monitor as a gateway. Mia collapsed into tears when they showed her. The working theory? Someone had been watching them for weeks, if not longer, possibly from a car nearby or a neighboring house. They had access to the monitor, the camera feed, and the audio system. They may have spoken to Lily multiple times. They never caught the person. The equipment was clean. No fingerprints, no identifiable tech. The only clue was a small sticker on the back of the hidden camera that read, Fleshlink 12, a name associated with underground surveillance forums on the dark web. Mia never slept in that house again. She and Lily moved across the country to live with her sister. She threw away every monitor, every smart camera, and refused to connect anything to the internet that wasn't absolutely necessary. She gave one interview, anonymous, to a parenting podcast, her voice trembling. "I thought I was being safe," she said. "I thought technology would protect us, but it made us vulnerable." Her last words haunted listeners. He didn't want to take her, not yet. He wanted to train her to obey, to come to him on her own. And that's what he was doing. Talking to her, grooming her, through the walls. Lily eventually forgot the voice, but Mia never did. Even now, years later, when the wind hits the house just right and the ducks hum in the night, she can hear it again. "Come on, Lily. Daddy's here." Story 4. People always say nothing good happens after midnight. I used to laugh at that. I was never superstitious. Not until the night I learned what it really meant to be alone, vulnerable, and watched. That night rewired something in me. It taught me that real fear doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream or chase you. It just knocks, softly, until you choose to open the door. My name's Aaron. I was 28 at the time, living in a small house just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. Not isolated exactly, but far enough from town to feel like I had my own space. I'm a freelance graphic designer, mostly working at night when the world's quiet. That house was perfect for it. 1 bedroom, small yard, no neighbors too close, cheap rent, good internet, and surrounded by forest on 2 sides. It was January, cold, dry, and silent. That night started like any other. I'd stayed up late working, headphones on, the soft glow of my dual monitors painting shadows on the walls. I remember checking the time. 12:41 a.m. I was designing a poster for some indie band, half listening to an old true crime podcast in the background. Then the power went out. No warning, just click. Darkness. I took off my headphones. Nothing but stillness. Even the hum of my PC fan vanished, like the house had gone dead. The cold crept in fast. I stood up, heart beating just a little faster than I wanted to admit, and walked to the hallway window. Outside, it was pitch black. No streetlights out there, just tall pines and dirt roads. The whole area must have lost power. I wasn't too worried at first. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and checked the breaker panel. Everything seemed fine. Maybe a grid failure? I was about to head back to bed when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. It was so unexpected, so quiet outside moments ago, that I thought I imagined it. But then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. Not pounding, not frantic, just patient. I froze in the hallway. My phone's flashlight flickered slightly, then steadied. I felt a chill roll down my spine. Who the hell knocks on someone's door at 1 a.m. during a blackout? I crept to the peephole. The porch light was out, of course, but I could make out a shape, a person, just standing there. I couldn't see a face. They weren't moving. I didn't say anything, just stared through the peephole, trying to make sense of the silhouette. They didn't move, just stood there. I waited, a full minute, 2, still motionless. Then, they raised their hand. Knock, knock, knock. This time I stepped back. Something wasn't right. I thought maybe it was a car accident, maybe someone looking for help. But why weren't they saying anything? Why not knock once and call out? Instead, just silence. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. I didn't have a weapon. Closest thing was a kitchen knife. I grabbed one, called 911. No signal. Dead. Nothing. I tried rebooting the phone, but it didn't help. No bars, no data. The power, the signal. It all vanished at the same time. I returned to the door, heart pounding, just in time to hear, knock, knock, knock. Still 3. Still slow. Still steady. This time I yelled, "Who is it?" No answer. My voice cracked. I hated how scared I sounded. I gripped the knife tighter and inched toward the side window. If I could get a better angle, maybe I could see the person's face. But the porch was empty. No one was there. I blinked, confused. I swore I just heard the knocks. Then came a new sound from the back door. Knock, knock, knock. Same pattern. I spun around, nearly tripping over the rug. There was no way they could have moved that fast. Unless there were 2 of them. Or more. I crept toward the back of the house, turning off my flashlight so I wouldn't be seen. My eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness, but all I could see through the kitchen window was black trees swaying in the wind. No figure. Just more knocking. Knock, knock, knock. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I didn't want to open any door, not even to escape. Then it stopped. No more knocking. Just silence. But somehow, that was worse. I stood in my dark kitchen, every muscle tight, knife trembling in my hand, when I heard something else, something softer. Tap, 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 from the bathroom window. Not a knock this time, a tap, like fingernails on glass. My legs nearly gave out. I backed into the hallway, every instinct screaming to hide. Then, the power came back on. Lights flickered to life. The hum of the refrigerator kicked back in. My computer rebooted, and just like that, it was over. No more knocks, no more taps. I ran room to room, turning on every light, checking every lock, every window, all untouched, no signs of forced entry. I stayed up until sunrise, knife in hand, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. That morning I called the sheriff, told him everything. He came out, looked around, found no tracks, just my own. Said maybe it was a prank. Teenagers, he guessed. We get a few weirdos out here. But I knew. Teenagers don't disable power grids. Teenagers don't move silently from door to door, knocking in the exact same pattern. Teenagers don't tap on your second-story bathroom window from the outside. He gave me a half smile and said, "Could have been a dream, you know." But I was awake. I've never been so awake in my life. That night changed something in me. I got a security system the next day. Floodlights, cameras, the works. I reinforced every lock, covered every window, even adopted a dog. I never heard the knock again. But sometimes, especially when the power flickers and the wind picks up through the trees, I think I catch the faintest sound beneath it all. Knock, knock, knock. And I know that whatever it was, it's still out there, waiting. Just patient enough to knock again.